Hey, everybody. Welcome to my booth. I'm Jay, and happy Thursday to you out there. This is going to be a fun one, I think, because Durand here for subscriber feedback of the week, he didn't have any specific questions, so we're just going to dive in and go nuts. We'll talk about how to improve audio quality when maybe you have equipment limitations, how to work with what you got and improve your performances where you can, and how to put your best foot forward when submitting auditions like this. All of that and more in a moment. As always, if you'd like to submit a sample for review just like this, there's a form in the description. If you didn't know, send me something. If you want to, it's a little bit of a wait at the moment to get through everybody, but if you want to jump the queue, accelerate your progress, you can join the Booth Buddies. There's coaching on my website as well. Otherwise, thanks for being here. Enough of that. Take us away, my friend. There are two different spots in this recording, so I'm going to break it up into two sections. Makes sense. Let's go.
So you figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? I hate to break it to you, but yeah, your brakes are cooked. Don't sweat it. Let the pros at Pep Boys replace them before your bumper meets somebody's living room. Fast, easy, and way less embarrassing.
Yeah, okay. So things that I love already. You're definitely driving toward the heart of this script. You're really doing a good job of embodying the point of view of, somebody who knows something about cars. I trust that you're somebody who knows about cars and that you talking to me in this way, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Thanks for helping me. So I love that. And moments that I think really embody that. Yeah, your brakes are cooked, gold. The laugh with just come let us fix it before your car ends up meeting someone's living room. And then the last line, which I can't remember.
Fast, easy, and way less embarrassing.
Yeah, way less embarrassing. The way you deliver embarrassing, I think, is wonderful. So all of that is really working in your favor. Things that you can do to improve upon that even more. Firstly, there are just some moments in your read where it sounds like you kind of stumble a little bit. I think that this section has one.
Let the pros at Pep Boys replace them before your...
Yeah, let the Pep Boy replace them. There's just like a little hitch here where it's not as smooth as it maybe could be. So that to me, at least in my listening to it, it sounds like you just stumbled a bit over the line there, which happens. It's totally fine. But because in my listening to it, that's sort of the question that I have. Like, oh, did they stumble there? It detracts from the performance, the joke, and your beautiful delivery of the jokes where you don't want it to end up in someone's living room a little bit. So just to smooth that out, if any moments like that where you stumble, just retake that line. You can either punch in this little bit or you can re-record the whole thing just until you get that bit right. For a 15-second spot like this, it might be worthwhile to do so. Beyond that, somewhat technically, now it sounds like your gear or your setup is towards the entry-level end, which is totally fine and great. And we'll talk about ways that we can improve audio quality when you're working with that limitation. But that said, it does sound like you're popping the mic just a smidge, like in this section here.
Let the pros at Pep Boys...
Pros at Pep Boys, both of those P's somewhat get puffed into the microphone. And that's just something that you'll want to avoid as best you can. Ways you can do so, instead of talking directly into the mic, you can place it about 45 degrees off to the side. And as usual, about a hang loose or thumb and fist distance away is a good metric to go with. And that, for me at least, reduces any plosives really significantly. And it can be 45 to the side, 45 up. It can be as long as it's 45 degrees. I wouldn't recommend below just because your air from your nose can flow downward, but work with what you got, my friend. So now let's talk about how I might try to improve the audio quality if this is what I had to work with. So for myself, and this isn't to say that your audio quality is bad, my friend, but we have room for improvement. And so here's how I would try to do so. For myself, this would be a scenario where maybe I'm on vacation and I don't really have my booth or an ideal recording space, and I got to figure out how to make do with what I've got. Or maybe I don't have my gear with me and I just borrow someone's microphone for an audition. Here's how I would approach it. So let's get this effects rack in here. First things first, I would, let me draw this here. Your recording levels, if this is what you're initially recording, is totally fine. For the sake of working with it, I'm going to normalize it to -3. For anyone who doesn't know, normalize means we're taking the loudest bit of your recording. So for this, it's right around here, or this one, these little spikes. And we're going to draw that up to a specific loudness. So for me, I'm going to do that to -3 dB. Bajam! And it's just a little bit louder, which makes it easier for me to hear things and work with. Now, just in preparation, I'm going to open a few tools. Firstly, an equalizer, an EQ, just to see what we can work with there. Then these are sort of fancy tools, so this may be more of a professional toolkit type thing. So I'll hold off on those for the moment, actually. So let's let this one go. And just to begin, I'm going to do what I always do and throw a high-pass filter on this. If you don't know what a high-pass filter is, I've got a video on how to use equalization or EQ for voiceover artists or something similar. I'll try to link it, but I always forget to do so. So now let's listen to this and see what we can see.
So you figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself?
All right. Now, I hear a bit of a resonance, and I suspect it's right about here. So let's just do this and put it on a loop.
So you figured that screeching noise...
Yep, you hear how it gets all... So we'll just drop this by a few, and I'm going to widen it out because I see a fair amount of that.
Noise was just your car ways of expressing itself?
So the way I made that call, my ears are somewhat trained at this point to hear that kind of stuff. But the reason I like these visual equalizers is it's helpful if you get used to what a equalizing curve looks like in your recording booth. For myself, I can pinpoint visually when things might need to be adjusted. So if we watch this curve, there are a few things that I can see that just sort of guide me. Now, I will never make the judgment call based off of visuals alone. I will always use my ears over my eyes. But because this is visual, it helps me to sort of get within the ballpark of things without having to second guess myself. So as I watch this curve, I can see a pretty significant hump right around here in the EQ curve, in the frequency band of your voice. And that doesn't inherently mean that it's bad, or that you're getting resonant frequencies or anything like that. But it leads me to suspect that there's something either in your microphone or in your space that is exacerbating those frequencies to a degree. So as we continue to listen, I watch this curve, and in hearing things, I can test it by giving it a little boost here and seeing if we get a distorted sound.
Figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? So you figured that...
And it sounds pretty distorted, and you can see here that there's that big hump, which is due to my boosting it. But the fact that it's so exaggerated here and the rest of the things under the curve aren't being boosted a lot leads me to believe that this is where our resonant frequency is popping up. So then I just drop that by -3-ish decibels. And I've widened the Q out, which is the bandwidth of the equalizer, just so that it's gentle. If I have a tight Q where it looks like a notch like that, you can more often than not hear the effects of the equalizer, and we want to make this be an invisible process. So I'll just click this guy on and off so we can hear the before and after.
So you figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? So you figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? So you figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? So you figured that screeching noise.
So I exacerbated it a little bit there, or made it more dramatic, just to prove the point. And hopefully, you'll probably want to use headphones for that A/B comparison if you aren't already, but that's how we're fixing that little bit. Now, because your equipment sounds like it's a lot of gear, tends to have a less present higher frequency. And as a point of fact, you can see here in the frequency curve that a significant portion of your upper frequency is just not there, which is usually just meaning that the microphone is designed that way. A lot of phones will have that built in, and a lot of more entry-level microphones will not have these higher frequencies. But most professional-grade microphones will go up to 20,000 hertz or 20 kilohertz. So all that is to say, we can sort of manufacture a more professional sound by improving that higher end when it's lacking. This is a thing that's totally subjective in a case-by-case basis. So I'm not saying that you always want to do this, particularly if you have a established setup. But sometimes this can be helpful to improve the perceived quality of your recordings if you're working with something that is similar to what Durand here is.
So you figured that
So I'm just going to boost this guy a little bit as we go so we can hear how it changes. And I'll go dramatic and then scale back.
screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? I hate to break it to you, but yeah, your brakes are cooked. Don't sweat it. Let the pros at Pep Boys replace them before your bumper meets somebody's living room. Fast, easy, and way less embarrassing.
So again, I've gone pretty dramatic with this. And part of that, again, is because we're just missing a fair amount of the upper frequencies to begin with. But so we'll do an A/B comparison. I'll turn the equalizer on and off as we go, just to give us a direct one-to-one there. So I'll start with it on and just click off and on. Watch the green light over here for when it's on or off.
So you figured that screeching noise was just your car ways of expressing itself? I hate to break it to you, but yeah, your brakes are cooked. Don't sweat it. Let the pros at Pep Boys replace them before your bumper meets somebody's living room. Fast, easy, and way less embarrassing.
Cool. So that's the EQ, how I would improve this in a pinch. There are maybe other tools that I would use to further improve the audio quality, but for the sake of time, I'm going to pass those over, particularly because a lot of them are pricier. But for the rest of this, I'll leave this EQ on so that people can do the A/B with the rest of the recording. Let's listen to this second spot now and hear the majesty that is this bit.
Welcome to Workplace Safety Essentials, your guide to a safe.
Real quick, so the dynamics of this first one I'd already changed. I'm going to boost this one now as well. I hadn't beforehand. So I'm going to do that. And now let's dive back in.
Welcome to Workplace Safety Essentials, your guide to a safer, more secure work environment. In this module, we'll cover key safety protocols, how to recognize potential hazards, and the correct procedures to follow during an emergency.
Cool. So all in all, love the style of the read, love your energy to it. It's very positive, very informative, very in line with what this type of material would be. Obviously, or perhaps maybe it helps at the end to have. You don't want to get it cut off if you can help it. So if the initial recording's cut off, re-record it for sure. If you were just sending this to me and it was an accident, no sweat. Just know if you're submitting an audition, this is why listening to your auditions right before you submit them can be helpful just to have proofing. Sometimes I'll submit something where I forgot to remove a mistake in the middle, and that is usually just a death sentence. It's not as dramatic as being a death sentence, but if you're going up against people where their read is just put together and you've got a little tiny technical error like this, it can just cause the casting person to move on, for better or for worse. So if you hear something like this, where emergency, for example, in this case is just cut off, just make sure that that is completed so that A, we can get the conclusion of your audition, your performance, but also so that the casting people that you're sending this to know that you've got that buttoned up, the technical side of things. You're going to take care of them in that respect because that's part of this whole thing, for better or for worse. Let me listen to just the first bit one more time and we'll think about a few performance notes for this because it's so different in style from the first one.
Welcome to Workplace Safety Essentials, your guide to a safer, more secure work environment. In this module, we'll cover key safety protocols, how to recognize potential hazards, and the correct procedures to follow during any.
So there's one, it's a really small thing, and bad version for me. I don't know how to say it well. My brain isn't functioning in that way just yet. But this sentence here, I don't know that this is a pattern for you necessarily, but in this sentence here, the emphasis is on the wrong word. So let's listen to this little bit real quick.
How to recognize potential hazards.
Maybe it's not on the wrong word. Well, okay, here's my thought process. Because this whole thing is a training thing, the thesis of this training is safety. Hazards are the important operative word in this case. So just as an example, usually things that are qualifying the main subject of a phrase, so in this case, potential hazards, often it's more helpful or important, particularly in this case, to lean towards the thing where the subject is, my brain isn't working, forgive me. This thing's about safety. The word is hazards or potential. Because hazards is more in line with the overall theme of this piece, hazards is more likely, in my opinion, the thing that you'll want to emphasize. So I'll just say, right now, I'm hearing how to recognize potential hazards versus how to recognize potential hazards. And I would say that the second version there is probably the way that you'd want to go. Just in terms of the overall meaning and driving force behind this. That's all we got time for today, my friend, but really solid work here. Keep us posted on where things go. I hope that some of this was helpful for you and for everybody else out there. And until the next one of these, be well, everybody, and I will see you there. Again, send me something if you want to. I look forward to it. Anyway, toodles!